If you love talking about cats, but your friends and family are kind of over it, this is the podcast for you. Join your hosts, Danielle Stray Woolley and Elizabeth Calico Gearhart, on the Jersey PodCats, where everyday cat lovers share funny stories, challenging situations, and ask their questions about cats. All right, let's get right into this episode.
Hi, everyone. I am Danielle Woolley.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, and we're the Jersey PodCats. Welcome to our podcast.
Welcome, welcome.
So Danielle, okay, you've got a story you've just been dying to tell.
I've had two, but I'll stick with one for now so we have enough time to introduce our guest for the day. So I was looking for some cool topics and stories tied around the theme for today. We're going to be talking a bit about, traveling with cats. And I found a story online that somebody, I guess as a joke, had marked a Yelp review of a stray cat that they saw like outside of like a store or on a street in like a town that they were visiting. And they put a really cute review up of like, oh, 5 stars, recommend. The cat was very friendly. And people actually started finding it on Yelp and then now making their travel destination around visiting to see if they could find this cat. And then people start writing reviews saying, yes, the cat was very friendly, or I saw the cat too. And I thought that was really funny.
It's hilarious. Cats are such a part of society, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we saw a stray cat that was really friendly down in Aruba, and I know it had to be a stray because it was in the resort area. So I always wonder how strays.
They have a lot in Aruba.
Yeah, I wonder how strays can get over the cat fear and be so friendly, because even Lily, who was a stray when I got her, but has lived in this home with every need she has met, still is terrified of people.
It comes down to socialization, which I know we're going to be talking a bit about too, and interactions that they have, and it also can tie back to the personality. I know we're jumping around a lot, but we're excited about the topics for today. There is one other story too, which I'll just give you the short version, and you guys can let us know if you want the details. I think I might ask him to come on the show. We'll see. But one of my clients confessed to being cat obsessed. He's like, oh my gosh, you don't even know how obsessed I am with my cat. My wife hates it. So I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm pretty obsessed. But then he started talking. I'm like, okay, I think you win. He has a company email address. So he's a business owner and he has a company email address for his cat. You can email his cat and there's an auto response that kicks back. It's pretty funny. And it says something like, don't you know I'm a cat? I can't type, but I'll let my dad know you reached out and he'll get back to you. So I thought that was adorable. And it's just fun to have like all these cool people that like to do fun things for their cat.
Yeah. So we started the podcast because of Max, and I usually give a Max update. So I don't have Max's picture up here behind me if you're looking at this anywhere else, but Max is doing better. He's kind of at an equilibrium state. He's not 100%. He's still scratching, but I think so I have him on 3 medications that I have to give him all 3. So he's on a steroid, but he's going back to the vet for a checkup. He's on Zyrtec, and I know there's really a big change if I can't get enough Zyrtec into him. Mm-hmm. And then he's also on gabapentin, and if he doesn't get the gabapentin, it drives him crazy too. So I'm taking him back to the vet. In a few weeks I have to make the appointment for a recheck, and he cannot probably stay on steroids forever, because I guess steroids cause diabetes in cats is what the vet told me. So anyway, but he's still like just sweet as can be, and he's playing with Lily now, and he's running around, and we're going out on the screen porch because it's sunny and a little bit warm here sometimes, and he's laying in the sun. And so he seems as happy as he can be with his condition. So
well, we are so happy that he has you. I mean, you're not giving up on this little guy.
No.
And people have been asking about Max, and because every once in a while we don't want to keep just like repeating and because some days there's no update. He's still struggling. Right. So, but then we actually have people saying, what about that cat? I'm like, what do you mean that cat? His name is Max. You don't know his name by now. You're not listening enough.
Yeah. Well, all the fur he scratched off is growing back, and his whiskers that he scratched off are growing back. Good. So, and he's almost a year. So I'm hoping that once he gets out of the kitten phase, it might be easier to treat, because there's things you can't do to kittens that you could do for cats. And also maybe he'll have more resources in his body to fight it off. I mean, he is getting a little plump. He's eating a lot. I think the steroid.
Well, now that you gave him the food that he likes instead of all that healthy garbage. I'm just kidding.
I know. So yeah. So I talked a little bit last time. I had just gotten back from Hawaii, but I didn't elaborate on the Seahorse farm. There's this big movement to keep seahorses populating the earth, and they release some of them into the reefs, and some of them they actually let people have as pets, but they raise them on this farm in Hawaii, and it was very cool. And I went up to this one tank and looked and these are seahorses that people just get to observe that they, I think, are breeding too. And this little seahorse came to the top and looked me straight in the eyes and blew a little bubble like it was saying hi. But a lot of them would make eye contact and they would float to the top of the tank to say hi. It was really interesting. And then we went to
cool.
It was really cool. And then we went to a tank where we put our hands in and they curled their tails around our fingers. So that was really neat.
You know, when you say seahorses, and I don't know if this is the same thing or not, but I just had the song The Snorks pop in my head. Do you remember that show? Alicia, I know we didn't introduce you yet, but I see you nodding your head like swim along with the snorks, right? No? All right.
Oh, well, I am too old.
I'll stop interrupting. Continue.
No, so that's really all. It's on the big island in Hawaii. You have to, it's right where the plane lands. So if you come from another island, you can find it easily, but it's definitely worth the experience. They have tours at certain times and it's very well organized. And of course I bought things in the gift shop. So
yeah, every time we travel, we always do something animal oriented. So like sometimes when I travel, I go check out like if they have flamingos. We always tried to find a zoo or a botanical garden. We were looking at videos last night on YouTube. There was a place called Cat Island in Japan. I'm like, when are we going to Japan? Like there's a whole island just where they take care of all the stray cats and make sure that they're healthy. So animals are just so awesome.
I know. You know what blew me away about Hawaii was all the birds. Like there are tons of pigeons and they're not afraid of you. Like they'll come right up and we didn't feed them because we figured we'd have a million of them there if we did. But we were at a restaurant and I had dropped some food, of course. And the bird came up and just cleaned up the whole place. And then the guy came and sprayed him and made him leave. I'm like, why? He's cleaning up my dropped food. Let him eat it.
Yeah. And when I was in Mykonos, that was like the cats because everything's mostly outside when you're eating and they just come right up and it's like nothing. Like restaurants don't care. And then all my friends were joking because out of, I think there was like 12 of us in the group, we went on a girls trip and all the cats are going under my chair. They're like, gee, I wonder if they know Danielle's a cat person.
You just got that magnetism. So for cats.
So I think we talked a little bit about travel and cats, and I think we are good to start doing what? Introducing Alicia?
Yes, I am so excited to have Alicia Morrissey with us today because Alicia and I have been working together for 3 years. She is one of the powerhouses behind our syndicated radio show that my husband and I do called Passage to Profit. Yes, I was doing all this work and it was consuming my life, and we hired Alicia and she took it all over, like interviewing, finding the people to be on the show, interviewing them, giving them all the details, sending follow-up emails, posting on social media. She took all that over and she does a fabulous job. And honestly, she's irreplaceable. But yeah, so.
And she loves cats.
And I remember we were on a Zoom call during COVID early on, and she had this little teeny tiny kitten. So Alicia, tell us what happened with the little teeny tiny kitten.
Hey, thanks, Elizabeth. It's so awesome to be here. Very excited to be on your show. So yeah, the tiny kitten, I found her in my courtyard. I live in an apartment complex, and in the courtyard, I just, one morning, it was around 8 a.m. It was early December 2020 during the pandemic. And I just hear this loud meow, right? And I'm like you know, me as a cat lover, I'm like, oh, cat in distress. Where's the cat? So I go out and she wasn't hard to find. I went down the stairs and, you know, I just followed the meow and I just saw this adorable little tortie kitten just run up to me. And I immediately picked her up and she wasn't scared. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I just put her on my shoulder and I literally started to tear up because I had been wanting a cat. And I was like, is this the cat I've been looking for?
It was meant to be.
Yeah. And so I just brought her in and, you know, from there, she was very, you know, she wasn't like a tiny kitten. She was maybe like this big. But yeah, she's, you know, I did try to see if she belonged to anybody. I put up signs. I did like this online thing where you can, you know, put a picture of a lost cat and see if anyone claims her, but you know, no one claimed her. So she's mine now. And yeah, so
I think she claimed you, it sounds like.
Yeah. And you're down in Florida, right?
Yeah, I'm in South Miami. So the day I found her, she was shivering. It was cold for Miami. It was 50 degrees. I know that's not cold for New Jersey.
I have a friend from Miami. Yeah. She talks about that. Like if it's 65, like, oh, I got to get my sweater.
Yeah, we'll have to try to get a picture of her to put on our social media. I'm sure she'll come and join you at some point, right?
Yeah, she was next to me. She stepped away. So it's gonna be hard to
She's
get her
camera shy.
She stepped away for the moment.
Maybe she thought it was just too loud over here. I don't know.
So you travel, so you don't stay in Miami all the time. I mean, especially now that COVID is over. So what happens with her when you travel?
Well, if it's a short trip, I did find a pet sitting service. They come, only for a couple days, but if it's, when I go to visit my family up in Boston, I do take her with me. And I have a little backpack that I put her in, and she goes right on the plane with me, right under the seat. But one thing I have to say is that they really rip you off, those airlines. Like,
oh yeah,
literally her price of taking my cat is like the price of a human, even though she doesn't get her own seat.
Oh,
wow. Even though she goes underneath?
Yeah. So with American Airlines, it's $125 each way.
Oh,
and if you get a good deal going from Miami to Boston round trip, it could be $250. Usually it's a little bit more than $250, but that's like literally the price of a person.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I saw a video the other day of someone who said, how come this never happens on my flight? And there was a cat that had gotten out and it was just like visiting people from seat to seat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She fortunately, the bag I got for her is very secure. I did thorough research before I got this travel bag to make sure that it's like escape proof, because I've heard of those horror stories of cats escaping on the plane. But this one, it's very secure and it fits right under the seat. I've just made sure I didn't get one that's like too big, or else, I didn't want problems at the airport. But it works out well.
So is she okay with you leaving her alone for a couple of days on the short trips, or does she get really nervous?
Like there's some instances where I can't take her, right? Or it would just be like too distressing for her to be like traveling like for like 3 days. So I know she doesn't like it, but I've rarely left her alone. But when I do, I just make sure it's as short as possible and I make sure someone's here to feed her. So, yeah.
Now you mentioned that you had gotten her, well, she got you, let's just be real. And so it was just the two of you, right? Because it's when you guys weren't doing too much, you weren't traveling because nothing was really open. Is that correct?
Exactly. When I found her, it was the end of 2020. That was like, there was like a huge spike in COVID exactly at that time in December. Yeah.
And then now that you're going out and moving more and doing stuff, are you finding certain things help with her kind of? Because I don't want to call it separation anxiety, but to me, it kind of sounds like that might be something.
What she does is like, basically, even if I go and take a shower and leave her, she starts meowing really loud. And she has this toy, which I'll show you. It's this one.
Oh my gosh, we have those all over my house.
It's one of those sticks with a long string, and then she's got like this orange little toy on the end of it.
Thank you.
Oh, right. Because this is
yeah, but if you're on YouTube, you know exactly what she's saying.
So it's basically, she picked up this toy, you can hear it's ringing, and she meows like she sounds like she's in distress. And she usually brings it over to her food bowl. I don't know why she associates food with me leaving her. Maybe, because I think there's a good chance that someone left her as a kitten here, just dropped her off, because she was very friendly. She didn't seem feral when I found her. So I don't know, maybe she associates food with being deserted, I don't know.
That could be. Well, it kind of reminds me, I hate to say this, I've given Max so much medicine, and now I use a syringe to give him the liquid steroid. The minute I pick up that syringe, he takes off.
He knows.
It's so funny. I'm like, Max, you're not getting away. And I follow him till I finally get the medicine in him. But they're smart. They know.
They have a good memory from two of my cats, because I originally was, they were rescued and fostered to the goal of being adopted, but I foster failed, for those who don't know. But because I was
means you kept them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, when somebody puts in an application after you've been fostering and taking care of them and all their health issues for 8 months and you start sobbing, that's kind of a sign that you should keep them. So I
Aw.
did. But because I was the bad guy, so I was the one who was always putting them in the carrier to bring them to adoption day. I was the one that was always getting them their shots or giving them their meds or clipping their nails. I can't even pick them up. Like as soon as I try to pick them
Aw.
up, they pounce right off me and leave. But my husband can pick them up, no problem, because they trust him. He doesn't have to do any of the bad stuff.
That's so funny because Max still tolerates me. Like I'll pick him up, I'll carry him around the house. He rubs his face against me. Even though I'm the one mostly giving him the medicine. I'm the one that takes him to the vet, but
Yeah, they cuddle, they come to me, they'll climb in my lap, but I cannot pick them up.
oh, that's funny.
So weird.
Yeah. So what do you think I should do about my cat separation anxiety problem? Like literally anytime I know that like, even if I go to the grocery store and it's a time that she's awake, she does pick up that toy and starts meowing and drags it around the house. Like, and I don't know, I'm not really sure how to deal with it. Cause I just really think it's some kind of trauma, when she was a kid. That's what I feel.
Well, based on what you just described, it kind of sounds like she wants to play. I understand that it's connected to every time you go to leave, but what if you do like a real crazy play session with her to kind of like wear her out before you go or go do something?
Well,
yeah, I could do that.
The other thing, does she go like that? What does it sound like?
It goes.
Oh,
like
that
it
sounds
sounds like
sad.
she's in just it's a sad meow.
Okay, because my cats, now I know that some people don't like to let cats outside, but my cats have all been strays and they've all been going outside their whole lives. And by the time I get them, they're like, I'm not going to be an indoor cat. So anyway, they'll sometimes catch little animals. And of course, I'd like to bring them in the house alive and let them go. And so we have to be really careful about that. But when they have the animal in their mouth, they'll do this really weird meow. Like,
that's why I was asking if it was more of a play thing. But, we've had some cat behaviorists on the show. We have some in our Facebook community too. So we'll put that question out to everybody and see what feedback or recommendations they can give to you to see, like to help with the separation.
Do you leave the door open? Alicia, can you leave your shower door open?
Oh yeah. It's almost like she knows I'm in there because I'll be screaming and I'll be like, Lakshmi. But she still keeps screaming. So I don't know. And sometimes she'll be sleeping and then she'll wake up and then she'll notice I've left the room and then she'll start meowing like that. So I'm not sure if it's a playful thing.
I'm just wondering if this cat has serious control issues.
I didn't tell you could take a shower. It's time to play with
wait. You need my permission, human. I own you. You don't own me.
Yeah, seriously.
I found you.
Exactly.
So she's such a cute cat. She's beautiful though. I've seen her. Sometimes Alicia and I show each other our cats at the end of Zoom meetings. So
that sounds so unlike you, Elizabeth.
Oh no. Well, wasn't last week wasn't Kushi putting his tail back and forth in front of the camera?
Like flipping it right in your face while you were talking. My
computer was covered in gray cat fur. Yeah, he was really active last week. He's not here this week. So Alicia, did you have cats growing up?
Yes, I've always had a cat. There's a picture of me sleeping as a baby in the crib with a cat tucked under the blanket with me. So I've always loved cats, and like I'm an only child, so my cat growing up was like my sibling. And I remember even as a little girl, I'd go to my cat and be like, I want to marry you. I would say that. It was a girl cat. I would say that to her.
That's great.
So yes, I've been obsessed with cats since an early age.
Just like, so there's that.
Yeah, I say I was born with a cat in my arms because I've always had cats. And there have been a few times when I didn't have them, like when I was in college, obviously I didn't have a cat in my dorm room, but I've pretty much had cats my whole life. And
Alicia, you had said that you found the cat outside, and then Elizabeth, you talked about how your cats were outside and they always go outside. Do you take your cat outside still?
Absolutely. So I've always had cats that were indoor outdoor cats until this cat. I do bring her outdoors, but I don't just let her go out on her own because I live in a place where it's like unsafe, and like actually my apartment complex, they said like if they find a roaming cat, we'll confiscate it. So I definitely don't let her roam around. And I'm concerned about the wildlife too. So I do have a harness for her. For the video, people can see it, but it's a brand called Travel Cat. I really love it. It's very secure harness. And I trained her as a kitten to wear it. Now, when you first put a harness on a cat and they don't never wear a harness, they're going to fall over because they like have this heavy thing on their body and they don't know how to move. So I would put it on her and she would just immediately like fall over to the side and just lie there. But they get used to it. And eventually they'll learn to walk and run in it. And what I do is I take her out in the backpack, and I actually take her out like at dusk when there's like nobody around. And I actually used to leash her, but now I just I've trained her in a way that she doesn't run away from me, but she just roams around and I just watch her. And I keep the harness on her so that if I need to grab her, it's easier to grab. Like when they have a harness on, it's easier to grab them. Right. Because I found the leash, like literally she was like taking me under a bush. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to stand here while you look under this bush. And like,
maybe she was bored and just seeing, what can I make my mom do? Let's see what crazy things I can get her to do.
Sounds like she has control issues. I'm telling you.
Yeah, she has a little bit too much control of me.
You know what's interesting though? I do think it's good that you have something on her that shows that she has a person that she lives with. Because Danielle and I started this podcast and started talking more, of course, a cat started showing up on our screen porch at night that we didn't know. And I was able to observe it the other night. I think it's getting used to me. And it looks almost exactly like Mercutio, who's a gray and white, like very typical looking cat. And it was actually cleaning itself on the porch the other night while I was watching it. I put some food out there and it did not eat the food. So I don't think it's a stray. Because I've never seen a stray cat turn its nose up at food, especially canned food.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So I think it belongs to somebody. I think it just comes over and visits. But Lily likes it. Like Lily will go outside when it's out there. So I don't know what's going on. Luckily Lily's fixed, so we're not having any little kitties.
Yeah. I like to see my cat's reaction to the animals because I live on a canal and there's ducks, there's baby ducks, there's possums, there's geese, there's other cats. And so it's interesting. She has a different reaction to each kind of animal, which is fascinating. Like with the ducks, sometimes she likes to run after and chase them. And with the little baby ducks, she just kind of sniffs them. She doesn't attack them. With the opossums, she saw a couple possums. She just stares at it and then just like walks around it. Like, what is that? With the other cats, she just runs up and like tries to play with them. So it's really
what does she do when she sees other people? Does she go with other people?
No, that's the problem with my cat. Because I raised her, during the pandemic, I live alone. She really didn't see many people. So she is very timid with other people. Usually when someone comes over, she just runs and hides under the bed. I'll pull her out and I'll have her go up and sniff them. Sometimes, depending on who they are and the vibe they give off, sometimes she'll stay in the room. Other times she'll go back to the other room.
That's so true. I've noticed the same, like about the vibe of the person or how loud they are or how clunky they walk around.
Yeah, and usually she's more comfortable with females than males, maybe because males have like a louder, deeper voice. But yeah, I mean, what do you think I should do to make her more comfortable with people? I've tried food. She usually just kind of like gets nervous about getting food from new people and she'll just like take a bite and then still act nervous. So I don't know.
So I can share something I did so Tony, he gets like that too. And I think it's because bringing him back and forth for adoption days and people just gawking at him in, the cage all this time. But when he sees his toys that he loves, especially stuff that's a stick with a string with anything hanging off of it, he kind of gets blinded and just sees the toy. So I'm wondering if that could be like a bonding or connection experience for your guests that you have come over to try playing with that, because then it's building trust between the two of them.
That's a great idea.
I could try. I could try that. Like when I do bring her, even when I bring her up to Boston to be with my family, she's still, after spending 2 weeks around my mom and her
she's like, all right, I'm good.
boyfriend, she still does not warm up to them.
Wow.
she's still kind of like back off, standoffish. So I don't know. Maybe it's just the way she is.
Cats can be very stubborn. And it may just be the way she's going to be forever. I mean,
yeah, you don't want to force either too. And I'm sure there's going to be some cat behaviorists listening to this saying, oh, I have advice, or what you said I don't agree with, and that's fine. Maybe they can write in and they can share tips too to give you some suggestions.
If anybody has managed to get a cat to like people that didn't like people before, let us know. We'd like to hear your secrets, right?
I feel like if I'm not in the situation, she'll be more friendly with others. I feel like when I'm there, she's like, oh, that's my person and nobody else matters.
Well,
like,
you know what it could be too, Alicia, because Kushi used to do this. Like Kushi was always my cat, and he's still my cat. He really loves me and he cuddles me a lot. But I walked into my daughter's bedroom and she was in bed and Kushi was in bed with her. And he gave me the guiltiest look on his face.
It's not what it looks like, Mom.
He's like, no. And so she made me afraid of offending you. I don't know.
That's
funny.
My
gosh.
It was hilarious.
That's hilarious.
I mean, I've never seen a cat with a guilty look on its face like that before, but yeah, so it may be that she wants to show her loyalty. I don't know.
Possibly. I don't know. I feel like it's more like I think she's just like a one-person cat. That's, some cats are like that, right?
Yeah, I know that with volunteering with the rescues, they, the whole purpose of going through a rescue is for them to get to know the cat, to socialize them, to get to know their personality, and really try to match the animal to the human, because, sometimes the cat needs to be the only pet in the whole house. Sometimes they don't like humans, but if there's another cat, they open up and they can bond that way. There's just so many different personalities.
Yeah.
Right.
And do you think it has anything to do with the fact that she's a tortie? Now, I brought her to the vet once and they're like, oh, she's a tortie. And then she was really hard to handle and she was like hissing at them. And they're like, oh, I see. She's like a spicy tortie or something, like as if torties were like that. Is that a tortie thing?
So that I'm not sure of. I would love to dig into that more, like the genealogy and stuff. Have either of you ever done like a base, like the DNA check and like learn more about what your cat has, like what type of cat?
We did base paws on Max, but I think we've talked about that before. But Alicia, I know you did something for your cat.
Yeah, I use a different company called Wisdom Panel. And it's interesting. So my cat is mainly all black mixed with brown. She's a tortie. She's got yellow eyes with a green tint, and she has long fluffy fur. When she was a kitten, she was quite small and I didn't think she would be long haired, but her tail kept getting bushier. And then she's now, I wish I could show it to her, she walked away. She's now kind of slightly Norwegian forest cat looking, like she's got long fur. But so I was like excited. I was thinking, oh, maybe she'll be part Maine Coon or part Norwegian cat, but I was, it's basically found out.
They're like, she's a cat.
Well, yeah, the majority of her, I think it was like 70% or something is American domestic. I'm like, oh, that's exciting. She's also
make a t-shirt.
Yeah. She's also a small percentage Cornish Rex. Now, I find that fascinating because although she does have a big body, she does have a very small, skinny face. So I think that's where that Cornish Rex comes from. And then what else is she? Yes, European domestic cat. Okay, very exciting. And then the other thing that is interesting is the Le Perm. She's part Le Perm.
What's that?
And this is a breed that was developed, well, not developed, but it just happened in the 80s. I don't know if people purposely did it, but basically there were these cats, a litter of cats that were born with like kind of curly hair, like wavy fur. And that's called Le Perm, meaning like permed fur. So and I noticed their fur is very fine and, kind of, and I don't know, the texture is not that super silky, and that's similar to my cat. So I just find this all pretty
I like to
fascinating.
learn stuff,
Yeah, that's interesting.
I want to do mine. I don't know if I could, because which one would I pick? And for me to do all the cats, I feel like that'd be a little insane. And I can already feel my husband's head turning around and saying, "You are not doing that." So.
Yeah, Danielle's husband always sits right next to her when she's doing the cats.
Poor guy's working while we're doing this.
Oh.
Now, I know we're talking all about cats, and we are so excited to have had you today. We always also like to ask the question, like, what is something awesome you want to share, or something cool that's going on in your world before we wrap up?
Yeah. So, what I'm really, enthusiastic about is, I've talked to Elizabeth about some of this, and I even gave her some tips. Basically, I spent a lot of time in India, and I learned a lot about different, health techniques, yogic techniques, to just really for both physical and mental wellness. So that's what I'm really into. Like, there's different herbs you can take. There's different breathing techniques you can do. I do yoga every morning. So I'm really enthusiastic about that. I spend a good amount of my time during the day in that, and in doing different practices, or just, the food, or, there's one where you just do liquid diet for a while. There's different kinds of various techniques I've learned for health and wellness. So that's what I'm really into. And I I meet every morning. I do Zoom. I do a yoga session with people on Zoom, which is awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you mentioned earlier about like reading people's energy and stuff, and like the vibe that they give off. Like, you have like everything you just said. I'm like, oh, that makes sense, because she's got a great vibe.
Oh.
So we're so glad that you came.
Thank you.
How can people connect with you? Like, if they want to learn about what you're doing?
Oh, okay. Well, we can, I can give my email. You can reach me at my Gmail.
We can put it in the show notes too, if you want.
Yeah, sure. AliciaMM1008 @gmail. That's a good email for me. Yeah.
So are you taking more people in your yoga group then? Like, if somebody wanted to do yoga with you, could they email you and get in your group?
Yeah, if they're ready to join at 5 a.m. Eastern.
Some people are.
That's great.
Well, thank you so much, Alicia. I'm really glad we had this chance to chat about our cats, because we never get enough time to talk about them at the end of the other meetings that we do. Yeah, so this has been wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.
Thanks so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. Give this podcast a rating so other cat lovers can find it. Connect with the Jersey PodCats on social media, or visit thejerseypodcats.com and leave a message sharing a story or question about cats. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode.